introduce yourself to us. Cam Clayton, SalesHero me. How did you come up with that?
I came up with SalesHero because I saw there was a gap in the market, really. I think everyone thinks about phone-based sales work and they either think, annoying, cheap, tacky, slimy, sleazy salespeople, or they think offshore, can I trust that person? Is this a scam? And I thought, why not do things onshore first and foremost? But then also, I know every business is built on a product and service that people are passionate about, but they're not necessarily the right people to be selling it. Yeah. I think when we're emotionally removed from things, we can potentially be a bit more effective with the strategy and the psychology of sales. The short story is I was working with what's now an international Pilates brand, actually. Mm-hmm. And I had like a profit share bonus built into my structure as the company performance manager. The job I had was to turn bleeding businesses around and make them profitable. And I quickly found that if you had just managers, with responsibilities to improve the performance, it wasn't going to work. Yeah. Because they were more passionate about delivering the product. They weren't passionate about picking up the phone. So I said to myself one day, why don't I just maybe park my senior leadership responsibilities and I'll just get in the weeds for a bit. I started carving out hours and hours of my day, getting in the weeds and doing calls for these 13 Pilates brands. And I quickly found that the performance of each of them skyrocketed by just asking the question, which was, what's stopping you from getting started? And I thought there's probably something in this. So I kind of pitched the idea to the CEO and said, maybe we should build out a bit more of a performance team that's actually doing the real work, not just delivering Pilates classes and dusting the pigeonholes and, just being customer facing. At the end of the day, we're all busy and sometimes we do need a little tap on the shoulder to say, do you want to keep coming? We'd love to have you. Everyone wants to feel wanted. Everyone wants to feel heard. But if it's a transactional business where people are in and out all the time, you don't necessarily get to have the conversations that you want. Yep. So that seed was planted then. But then beyond that, it kept getting watered a little bit in other roles. I accepted a redundancy and with KX Pilates, and I probably wasn't the right fit for the business. I was probably too driven by results and ultimately found my way out of a role. And I sat there one day and I said, okay, it's time to start building this business. Okay. So that's the short summary. But at the same time as I started building it, I landed a really great opportunity. I landed an opportunity looking after Asia for F45. And this is before the wheels on the bus started falling off. And I really got excited by that opportunity. 7 countries worth of studios, 150 locations. I was just consulting all day long, half-an-hour meetings back to back, one person in Thailand, the next in Singapore, the next somewhere else. And it was really an exciting opportunity. But I just built this business in the background. I said 1 hour of my day in my spare time, I'm just going to keep testing it and refining it. And that's where it was born.
Is sports industry your niche?
Historically where I've always worked was sport, health, fitness. I kind of worked in federal government roles which were aimed to reduce obesity, increase participation in sport. But there was a common theme in everything that I did, whether it be working as a development officer, development manager, and in other kind of hobbies and whatnot. I was always really driven by results. And so, the short story is I eventually progressed from athletics to federal government, which was all sports, to health and fitness. And then about 2 years ago, I opened the doors to every industry outside of fitness. Fitness still makes up about 55% of the portfolio that we work with, but about 45% of our overall portfolio at SalesHero is anything and everything you can think of selling, from mold removal to, pest kind of stuff in homes and resi and commercial properties. It could be digital marketing. We're selling concrete for tradesmen who are going and quoting driveways to be redone. You name it, we'll sell it. Because ultimately sales is sales, It doesn't matter what you're selling. You need to know a value proposition, points of difference, frequently asked questions, and then anyone can do it.
We're going to take a deep dive into sales psychology later on. But what I wanted to know is what shaped Cam today? Like, how did you get started? What was your childhood like? And
okay, from a personal,
what triggered your love for sales?
Okay, yeah, I think from a personal perspective, I've always been quite competitive. identical twin. So naturally you're kind of, fighting or competing over everything.
Yep.
And nothing was given growing up. My father has an acquired brain injury. So mum was the breadwinner, and he had a motorbike accident just before I was born. And so whilst he's learning to talk and walk, and mum's got twins, and obviously she was juggling a lot.
Yeah.
And so I think it's kind of been embedded from what you're brought up in, really, which is like, that's what you knew and you worked hard for what you got. So as soon as I could, I was washing the neighbours' cars and mowing their lawns, because who didn't enjoy a bit of pocket money? And if it wasn't given, well, then you had to earn it.
How old were you then?
I probably would have started below 10 years of age, I imagine. I like money. Who doesn't? And I wanted more of it, so I could enjoy my life in the ways that I wanted to. And then I guess you recognize with anything, the more you do, the better you get. And being, again, a twin, I was really competitive and won, quite a few accolades in different sporting areas. And so did my twin brother. So we're both doing really well in sport, not so much in school. I think home life can sometimes, contribute towards school being potentially a place to recharge and relax, as opposed to apply yourself. But yeah, definitely it's been a sporting background and a home life thing that's contributed towards my drive and motivation, I think, in sales. But I do think I'm the most non-salesy salesperson as well. I think, I'm driven by results. So you just need to believe in what you're selling enough, and you can believe in anything within reason. You just got to find what you believe in within it.
I wanted to pick on that because I keep saying that non-salesy sales. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah,
I know, and I know what it means, but for our listeners, can you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, well, I'll go down two pathways with this answer. So one is, and a lot of, sales companies or businesses will say, what on earth is Cam talking about? None of my team members, firstly, are paid a commission. I do recognize and reward them and give them some profit share for retaining accounts over quarterly bases and so forth, but none of them are paid a commission, because I don't want my salespeople to sound like salespeople. Yeah. Like if we stink of desperation, and if that person on the other end of the phone can hear that you want their money as opposed you want to help them, and you believe that this is a prescriptive answer to their needs, well, then now you're selling, and they can sniff that from a mile away. And that's where walls and barriers come up within the process. So if you're dancing with people and you're working with them and you're actually actively within that conversation and listening, you can sell more articulately than sounding like a salesperson. So non-salesy sales. Yeah, that's what you're doing. You are dancing with the person. You should be, forward thinking what they're going to be saying before they even say it. You should be able to overcome an objection before the objection even comes, because once you're overcoming objections, well, you could be too late. There's things that could have been discussed or placed into a conversation with somebody to allow a person to feel at ease and relax into what they're genuinely interested in.
Yeah.
Because that barrier comes up. Even if you've got the perfect script, the product inside out, they might just hear one thing, one word or one kind of tone from you that triggers something in them that you have nothing to do with. It could be like trauma from the past where they had a really bad experience. You might sound, it might be a female not wanting to be sold to from a male. Like there's things outside of your control. So even if you have the perfect recipe for success, I guess you have to be really mindful of how you sell. And so for me, non-salesy sales is making sure that you're with the person, not at them.
With the person, not at them.
Yeah, you're working with them. Yeah, you're finding solutions, but you are the solution. You got to work out what the barriers are, but you want to work out what the barriers are before they tell you. And, more often than not, everyone's objections fall into one of, 5 to 10 different categories, depending on what you're selling. So you should know what they are and be able to speak to them effectively enough before they come up in conversation as to how you can support such a barrier and work with them.
And how do you overcome objection before they even exist?
So let's say price is one of the world's most common objections. Or let's say time, I'm so busy, is a really common objection. Like, you can humanize those things. Yeah. You can also, I do something called the sheep effect. The last person I spoke to, they had circumstances not dissimilar to yours. So the person might say, I'm so busy, I'm just not too sure. But what we did was X, Y, and Z. So instead of speaking at them and saying, when was the last time you felt like this? Or when was the last time you prioritized this? Or why do you, really getting deep into the emotional side of selling, which is obviously an important foundational skill, is actually telling them a solution that worked for somebody else. So then that way they say, he's not telling me what to do, he's telling me what they did to support somebody else who has identical circumstances to mine. Or it might be like, okay, let's say price is an objection. We sell some pretty expensive things, but we also sell some really low cost thing. And it doesn't matter how high or low the price is, price is still an objection. So what's your fallback? You don't want to discount. Naturally, we want to maintain integrity. You've built something that you believe needs to be priced at a certain value. But are there other ways around it? Like, is there a payment plan? Or is there an alternative solution or product or service that delivers a similar, result, but at a more cost-effective solution? I think I heard Hermosi or somebody recently speaking about how he was overcoming on price, and he was saying, yeah, cool, I can discount on price, but it means that these 2 or 3 modules within the 10 won't be offered. So there's things you can do, of course, but naturally there is some also fun, common sales techniques that can be used as well, which is, if both things that you are comparing, because one is priced higher than the other, were priced the same, which one would you choose? Yeah. So I think if you can speak to convenience and tell that story, if you can speak to what others are doing, if you can speak to how they can make it work. So for example, if it is time, and if we were talking fitness for a second, you could say our first class is 5 a.m. Our last class is 8 p.m. Okay. We all have 24 hours. Do you think you can make it in some time during those 24 hours to do X, Y, and Z? So, yeah.
Okay, let's talk about hot leads, warm leads, and cold leads. With hot leads, it's easy to not sell something to them because they already put their hand up, they've got needs, you understand, we've already qualified them. Okay, let's just close these guys. With warm leads and cold leads, for example, there is some kind of a barrier that they've already built around themselves that if someone calls me, they're a salesperson, I'm going to say no. And in our world where post-COVID, I would say a lot of businesses are transacted over the phone. And I believe, I don't know if you can agree with this, we only have 4 seconds during the initial phone call, to be able to convince someone that we are credible and you have to trust us. What's your experience on that?
Yeah, definitely. The first impressions are going to help. You can certainly still have people say no 5 to 7 times and then they end up becoming like high-paying customers, of course, as well. So I guess there's different approaches naturally. But yeah, I tend to agree. You've got a magic moment. Like I had an opportunity to pitch to somebody in an elevator yesterday, and that's your 4 seconds really, like within reason, and he becomes a customer next week. So these things are very accurate. So yeah, I align with that. We had a really great meeting this morning internally as a team talking about a lot of what you've just referenced, which is hot, warm, cold. And we've got like some specialist cold callers that we've been throwing into hot accounts recently, just adding those extra layers of skills, because a cold caller would be like, oh my gosh, my job is so much harder. But then when they get into the hot, they were like, oh wow, there's actually a totally different skill set with calling hot leads compared to calling cold. And sometimes they don't automatically translate over. A lot of the time they don't. It's kind of like if you think about marathon runners versus sprinters, yeah? Like the training is different and how they apply themselves is different. If I want to run a marathon, which is 42 Ks, well then I'm probably doing 120 to 160 Ks a week in training, like lots of volume to build that engine, whilst a sprinter is not doing that. Yeah, they're doing like 30-meter flies, rolling starts, 60-meter sprints, all to run, 10 or 11 seconds or whatever. And I think the same goes, like 4 seconds in a cold call could be incredibly important. 44 seconds could be more important with hot, but the 4 second rule that you've spoken to is definitely, it translates regardless.
Yeah. So what was your most successful opening line for a cold call?
Oh, opening line. Truth be told, I don't do a lot of cold calls these days. My team do a lot more. But if I was to do it, it's if somebody asks you, it's more the second sentence. I like to humanize what I do in all times. So I don't like to sound like a salesperson, but I also don't like to sound like somebody that they've spoken to before. So if somebody says, if I said, hello, X, Cam here, how you going? And I maybe haven't referenced where I'm from, and they say, good, thanks, Cam, how are you? I would then respond with something like, living the dream. Yeah, I'm living the dream. And they have a bit of a laugh because they know that they already know something's up. Yeah, random person, I don't know Cam, he hasn't told me where he's from, and I've just humanized it. So that's a common one that I do a lot actually, even with hot and cold. It's just yeah, I'm living the dream. And it's a bit of a piss take. Yeah, they're just all right, this guy doesn't take his life too serious. I'm going to give him a second. As opposed to somebody's I'm going to fake it so much, and then they're this guy's already pissing me off. Yeah. So I think humanizing and having some fun with what you do will allow the other person to be this guy's not going to be that annoying to speak to. I'll give him that extra 10 seconds that he needs.
It's very interesting that you say that because, like you said, some customers need to be followed up 5 to 7 times before they can be converted into customers. And a lot of my follow-ups, a lot of customers actually reply to us when we say, hey, I know that you're busy. Maybe you're not replying because of one to three options. And the third option, I throw something that's very, very out there. I said, maybe you're secretly a superhero that you haven't got a chance to reply. And with that one, I would say more than 50% of customers who read that actually replied.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you condense that into the first 4 seconds? Because my actual question is, how do you break the wall within 4 seconds?
I could just use their first name and be like, Bob, how you going? Yeah, it's just whoa, who am I speaking to? That's who's going to expect a cold call sounding like that? So I think it's just breaking the cycle of what they're used to in their day. Yeah, they're just oh, okay. It's that caffeine hits your veins. You're just oh, feeling good like I should. It's how can I get this person's ears to just prick up and their eyes to open and to be there in the conversation? Because we've all taken a number of calls where we're not actually there. We're in meetings and we're not actually there. Yeah. So I think, how do we get somebody to be there? Just, you got to do something different. And you also need to experiment. What works with one person may not work with the rest. Yeah. So change it up, work out the common patterns, and you'll work out what might be a really great opening approach in the AM versus the PM, on a Monday versus a Friday. Yeah, it all differs. Fridays, what can we talk about? Having a beer. Yeah, if the sun's out and you're calling somebody in the same city as you, well, you know that they should be knocking off and hopefully enjoying their afternoon. Yep. Yeah. So you're calling in the evening, I've used this sentence too many times this week. Oh, you're my lucky last dial for the day. Yeah. They're not. I'm calling 10 more people after them. Hey, Bob, you're my lucky last dial of the day. Let's make this a fun one. Yeah. Yeah. You might as well respect the fact that you're calling them while it's not a great time to call. Yeah. And I'm booking some people as late as 8:30 p.m. at night. I don't want to call them then, but if I know that the business that I'm partnered with really values that appointment that's in their calendar the next day, and this person, there is some interest there. You just got to try and find them, and they may not want to speak to you at 8:30, but they may not have absolutely any time in the 12 hours before that. So why not condense it into the 4 seconds and make it happen if you can?
I reckon the biggest value proposition that SalesHero has, correct me if I'm wrong, is the emotional detachment in the sales call. How big of a role does that play?
I think huge. And you're talking to a person who founded a sales company. So, for example, if you said to me, I think your price is too high, Cam, what internally happens in my body? Things change. I'd be what an absolute douche. Internally, and I have to protect that. So externally, I don't be cool, good on you, mate. Good luck finding somebody cheaper than us who's going to do a better job. Okay. Yeah, naturally. So if I'm emotionally removed, that is guarded, and therefore I can speak more to what is actually going on in the conversation, as opposed to getting a level of defense about me because I'm so proud of what I've built. Mm-hmm. So I think 100% that's one of the two areas I'd say that would be super valuable for having a company like us. The other is the volume of work that can get done. Yeah, what business can actually find somebody who wants to sell the one thing all day long with the same kind of scripted approach in a crappy office, just hitting the phone 150 times and actually think that they're going to retain them for a long-term career unless they're incredibly on the journey. It's difficult. That, like, maybe 10 years ago, these days we can find another job like everywhere we look, whether it be for ourselves or elsewhere. So I think that's the other value is business have got an insurance policy with SalesHero. They've got an absolute army behind them where they don't have to pay sick leave, annual leave, or not that that's ever part of my pitch, of course, but they've got an army of people. We can split test energies, we can split test genders, we can split test, we can just retain like the work for longer without them having to worry about, oh my gosh, so-and-so just resigned and we don't have a ready-made replacement. It's like, we've got 20 others that can step up and do this job and do it well.
Yeah.
So that would be the other part for sure.
When did you start SalesHero?
About 4 years ago now. Yeah,
so COVID baby?
It was a COVID baby. Yeah. Yeah.
I was gonna say that because interestingly, outsourcing has a massive boom during the COVID period. Now, I forgot what was I going to ask you now. Regarding emotionally moved sales psychology. Now, having worked with a lot of businesses across different industries, how long would it normally take to onboard a completely new business or completely new business basically?
Yeah, it depends on the business. A lot of businesses will book a discovery call and then given my business is so easy to explain what we do and how we do what we do, within 30 minutes they'll say, how soon can you start? So they've already got some confidence that we'll be able to sell their products or services. And so it can be as short as you want or as long as you want. So when I say as short as you want, you've probably already got like a little bit of an onboarding Bible, or you've probably got a collation of 20 of the most frequently asked questions customers ask. We can probably find a lot of information online through an app or through your website that suggests what you're selling and what your ideal process would be. So we can actually do it very quickly. Like if you said to me, Cam, can you cold call for my business today? I'd say, sure. Do you have an example script? Maybe, maybe not. Cool. Does this sound like something that would resonate with your market? Yeah, it probably does. Cool. Do you have leads? Do you have anyone for us to call? Oh, no, we've got nothing. Okay. Are you happy for me to data scrape and get 1,000 leads for you right now and just to go to town with that? Yep, no worries. Are you happy for me to practice this pitch on you just quickly? Does it sound good? Yep, that's good. Then away we go. It's like that simple. If a business gives us the keys to their key box, being their CRM and lead management system, then we can seamlessly blend in and do exactly what they want us to do within that. So then that way it all correlates with what they would otherwise do if they were hiring internally rather than within a partnership.
Mm-hmm. So have you had a business that's so out there that you have to take some time to understand the business model and what they're selling?
Yeah, definitely. And there's some that you'll decline because of that. There was an OnlyFans agent of some kind who wanted like calls done to build like more OnlyFans models. That was probably one. There was a gambling company that wanted us to, subscription-based services. He provides the tips and like those kinds of ones. Like if they don't align with your values, or if you think it's going to be more trouble, then you're probably sometimes declining it. Our biggest customer is a laser tattoo removal company. And the first onboarding for the first part of their account, because they've doubled their investment in recent times, was 3 hours of kind of onboarding. So it was very easy. Their second one, which they told us would be easier work, lower skill level, was 6 weeks worth of training. So it's interesting, and it's not their fault for it being 6 weeks. They probably recognized very quickly. It was like, oh, actually this is a little bit more complex than we first thought. Like in their mind, they've never outsourced it. So then once they realized all of the things that needed to be ironed out along the way, it was a lot longer. So yeah, it could be 6 minutes, it could be 6 hours, it could be 6 days, it could be 6 weeks. I think you're forever being onboarded anyway within reason, because the more work you do, you continue to, both the founders of businesses and the salespeople, the more you recognize there's an extra layer within the process that you could be building into it to be more effective anyway.
Yeah.
Nobody's got it right from at any stage. None of us do. We just keep working out additional ways we could go about it to be more effective.
Are there any businesses that you would steer clear from?
Yeah, just probably businesses with absolutely atrocious like Google reviews, because it doesn't matter if you're Jesus Christ himself, you're not going to be able to sell it. And it's funny. A couple of years ago, I said no to a business that I was like, this guy does not seem like the person we would want to partner with. And he's like, I've just put the money in your account. I was like, well, it's there now. Why not? Like, and it was the silliest thing I've ever done. He was an absolute pain in the butt. And the Google reviews just like it kind of, reflected what we had picked up before we even checked it, which is this is not a business that you'd want to do business with. So yeah, I guess you get a feeling, don't you, as to who you would and wouldn't want to partner with. But I will say on the contrast, there's businesses that you'd say, are we going to be able to sell this? This sounds really difficult, that we've then sold really well.
Yeah.
Like, so you don't know what you're going to get until you have a go. And so I am open-minded, but I think there's a few things there. There's probably things that align with your values and things that don't. But also, more importantly, for me anyway, it's about what's going to get my team motivated and excited every day to want to keep rocking up to work. Because I look at my beautiful staff this morning and I think if one of them resigned today, I'd be so sad, because they get just such great staff, great people, great weapons, on all of the above. So you kind of want to feed your team work that's also going to really energize them as well. And they may not be energized on day one, but you need to think, are they going to be energized on day 10 or day 101? Because you've only got so much time to really ensure that they're energized before naturally they're going to say, can I make an extra $10,000, $20,000 or $30,000 somewhere else?
Yeah. Are all your callers onshore?
No, half are on and half are off. So we do work in the US and Singapore and UK, New Zealand. We find that the Singapore and US market, they can work with tones that are not just Aussie. So that we've got staff offshore for that reason.
Yeah.
But, and I only shared this yesterday for the first time, we invest so much into our offshore team that some of my offshore team are outperforming my onshore team. So, and I love that so much because there's such a misconception about offshoring. If you offshore correctly, your offshorers can be as good as you want them to be. Yeah, there's a skill gap for all of us when we start in something. So when I get over to Manila and I do 14-hour days with 15 staff in a room for 5 days straight, you can bet your bottom dollar they're pretty good by the 5th day. But even then, by the 15th day, they can be incredible, and their commitment is there. So no, we're both on and offshore.
So the biggest challenge I find with selling through the phone is accent. Now, whenever I hear, let's say Southeast Asian accent or South Indian accent over the phone, automatically in my brain, this might be a scam. And turn it off. How do you overcome that?
Yeah, good question. So when we hire over there, people often, as an initial part of the recruitment process, will obviously send a CV, a voice recording, and a video recording. And I'm obviously looking at all of that and closing my eyes if I'm listening to a video versus a voice, because you want to hear the right tone. There are some common themes. I hire a lot more females than males because the tone is a softer tone if you're going offshore a lot of the time, whilst sometimes the male tone can be a little bit too strong, and therefore the barriers come up quicker. There's a staff member that I've recently recruited who I would never have normally recruited because her tone is too thick, in my opinion, and she's proved me wrong. She's producing incredible results. And still, even on the 5th day of training, I thought, I'm not too sure. And I was like, well, we need the staff for this particular opportunity or opportunities, so we'll give it a shot anyway. And she's doing incredible, because sometimes you just need a lion inside of you and the person's going to pick up at a few things and there'll be some barriers. But if there's some character and personality that overcomes the tone quick enough, like that first 4 seconds we've spoken about, then you will buy people's time. But yeah, tone is the most important thing. A female tone is softer than a male's, and you can still train tone, obviously, depending on the accent. But definitely there is a lot of people that you'll just draw a line through automatically and you won't recruit purely because you don't think that tone is trainable, and because of the reasons that you've referenced, because the barriers are up after the first word.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can't completely overcome it ever, but certainly I've since been proved wrong that for the first time that one particular person in my team has got a tone that if I was on the other end, would be like, not sure, but I think her fun shines through the tone and people provide that. So that might be a training tip in itself, is like, could you enjoy time with this person? Like, if you actually, I'm always thinking when I'm selling to somebody, is this a person I could have a coffee or a beer with? Like, and I'm hoping that they can feel the same way. It's like, do they want to speak to me? And I guess that's what you want. It's like, regardless of tone, you want people who are speaking to people who want to speak to those people, I guess.
Yeah. You've seen Wolf of Wall Street, obviously.
Yeah, love it.
I've seen it 7 times. But what I'm very intrigued about, you must have seen the sales script as well that's been going around. Have you?
Not sure. Tell me.
Yeah, there is a sales script from the regional Stratton Oakmont that's actually going around.
Yes.
Have you seen it?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I saw a LinkedIn reversion of it.
What's your opinion on that?
I reshared it with the team for a bit of a chuckle. But yeah, look, and listeners and viewers will probably hear some things and potentially disagree with some of the things I say, but like, I'm doing it, so I kind of know what does and doesn't work within my business. I'm very open-minded, and I think there's no one way to sell. And so I will probably disagree with with it for the reasons that others may or may not as well. But I'll also be open to things that work. Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, you bring your flavor. I have a staff member who sometimes sits next to me when I do get a pocket of time to sell, and he's just in stitches. He's just literally just laughing his butt off, just thinking, oh my gosh, how did you just do that? Because my selling style might be different to his. But in the next call, I could be very serious and direct if I'm selling to somebody else. So I think there's many ways to sell. And ultimately, you got to pick and choose. And you talk about tone outbound, so our tone to the customer. You got to pick and choose after 1 second of hearing their tone. What tone are you going to be using? Yeah, because you need to be. It's as important the other way around, if not more. Yeah, you can have whatever tone you want, but if it's the wrong tone that's not going to resonate with the right tone, it's a gamble. Yeah, what does this person look like? What do they sound like? What are their hobbies? What energizes them? What do you think is going to relate best to them? How can you be that person on the other end of the phone? And once you do things enough, you will literally feel like that person is sitting in front of you selling to them. You know what they look like without you having LinkedIn search them, because you've just heard something and you're like, I've just modeled this person in my brain.
Yeah.
So I think, many ways to sell.
You've done this for so long, it becomes a second nature to you. Like, you can talk to anyone, you can sell anything to anyone. Have you had any formal education about this? No,
not necessarily. I think, so when I first moved into like direct sales work, I had a manager that probably the first and second manager that I had that believed in me naturally. And the second one in particular loved me, like just really embraced me as like a son, and really looked after me. And he was very loose with things. So he didn't provide a great deal of training, but he allowed people to work to their strengths and empowered people really well. So probably less on the educational approach, but some great people along the journey that would help. One thing that he did say, which I've shared with the team only recently, is, not that I'm proud to share this, but I think it's worth sharing, is that I love it when a customer complains about Cam, he used to say. He was saying this to a team of 5 or 6 full-time salespeople at the time, part of a 7-gym network with each had 4 or 5 kind of salespeople within it. And he said, I love it when people complain about Cam. And the first time I heard this, I was like, oh, why? He's like, because I know he's actually trying to sell to them. Yeah, because sometimes the biggest fear is like just asking for the sale. It's like just out of interest, what's stopping you? Like, not that you should get to that part, because you should have already worked it out prior to that. But like, if you've squeezed the lemon to try and get the juice out, and they've said no, 3 to 5 different ways respectfully, because you're asking respectfully as well, eventually there's going to be a boiling point. And definitely in the first year or two, even though I thought I was the most non-salesy salesperson, I was still really driven. And I believe that were interested for a reason. As you said, hot leads, they expressed interest for a reason. So why aren't they joining? Yeah. And if you've overcome each of their objections already in a conversational format, well, then there's something bigger than everything that you've talked about. And I guess a lot of the things is, and this is not something that people are wanting to share, I find that people are significantly more open about it now, is that people are living paycheck to paycheck. So who wants to really share that they've got like less than $1,000 in their bank account? Nobody wants to share that they've got less than 1,000, less than 500, less than 100, but it is actually more common than you think. And it doesn't matter the status of that person. It doesn't matter if they're living in a $1, $2, $3 million house or more. A lot of people are, if they're working in a 9 to 5, they're still waiting on that paycheck. Because, you know, the more we earn, the more we buy a lot of the time. And then naturally the same challenges exist at either end of the spectrum. So yeah, I think no real like drill training, but I've always learned from doing. I actually struggled with the training aspects that were provided to us, because they'd say, Cam, you know, please tell us how you won the sales member of the month. And it would be after a whole heap of formal training of how we should sell. And my answers were always like very different to what was taught. Because yeah, you learn through doing, you don't learn through a perfect script.
What was the biggest mistakes that you see a lot of salespeople make?
Not being likable.
What do you mean by that?
Like, yeah, I reference that you want to be speaking to people who want to speak to you. I'm very, very fortunate being that sporty twin and had a really big friendship circle. People knew me or my brother everywhere we looked, to have been able to develop in environments, interpersonal skills, and through experiences. I feel very fortunate to have been given a lot of exposure through my upbringing, and I think that helps when you're having conversations to be relatable. Like I've got staff that are a little bit younger, and they may not relate to some people that have got different life stresses. And I think if you're not actively respecting other people's needs or environments, you're not likable and you're not relatable. So it doesn't matter whether you have kids or don't have kids. A good salesperson is going to be relatable to what they can hear in the background of that conversation. If there is a kid there, that's a talking point. Yeah. And if you're a young person trying to sell something to somebody who's got a kid, maybe attached to a mother or in the background, and you're not recognizing their pride and joy in that conversation and respecting the fact that you're only going to take a second of their time because they've got responsibilities that are significantly bigger than your conversation just now, then you just become an unlikable person, unrelatable, and disrespectful person. So I think you need to be likable, and you can be likable in many ways. It could be the fun. It could be the understanding and respect. There's many ways to be likable, of course. But I think that would be the common theme is like, yeah, nobody's going to buy something from somebody that they don't enjoy. Like, I don't know, think about a car. I bought a car a couple of years ago, and I could have bought that same car from many different dealerships. I bought it from the person that I had time for. They would have all sold it for the same price at the end of the day.
Yeah.
They'll chop each other off at the knees. They all get to a bottom dollar price. It's $1 more or $1 less. There's not much difference at the end of the day, but you buy from the people that you actually want to. And then similarly in business, there's definitely some businesses that I'm not as proud of the results as I would like to be, but they've been with us the longest.
Yeah.
Because they like us. Yeah. Because we're relatable. And I think those things are important in selling.
So would you say the catalyst to closing a sale is mostly attributed to how well you can get people to open up about themselves?
Actually, contrast to that, really, depending on what you're selling, I've got like some things that you need to be really prescriptive and get to know them. Others, the people don't want to speak to you for a second longer than they want to. Yeah, you just need to tell them what they need and what they want and the value proposition, and they'll be happy to be off the phone and depart with thousands of dollars in less than 10 minutes. You can sell so many things in 3 to 8 minutes because those people already know that they need it, and they've already known they've needed it for 6 or 12 months, but they haven't bought it. So you're just going to make the most of that 3 to 8 minutes by not taking a second longer of their time than they need. So rather than being like, so tell me, a bit about yourself and what sparked your interest. No, they don't want to. Yeah, some people do not want to. It's like the coffee shop that you go to and you just want to have your coffee and it's an empty coffee shop and the barista there or the staff member there feels like they need to make small talk with you and you actually just want to sit in the corner of the coffee shop and enjoy your brew. Like you're just like, okay, this is my magic moment to recharge and enjoy myself. And there's this pest behind the counter that like they're doing what they're meant to do, which is to build relationships, but you may not want that relationship. So respect that as well. So it's both sides, really. Relationships are so important, but also where the person doesn't need an extra friend in their life or an extra buddy to open up to, it's also the complete opposite. So I think that's the most important thing that people need to hear is like, whilst everyone thinks that everyone wants to be heard, that's not actually accurate. Some people just need to know the value proposition. You need to respect their time because, you know, everyone's like value on time is different, but time is valuable for everyone. Yeah. And so, yeah, and you'll be surprised. There'll be the corporate that's in, you know, 10 meetings a day might give you a lot of time if you catch them in the magic moment. And you might be their stress relief and they might use you as a psychologist and you're selling to them and they are really appreciative. But on the contrast, there are so many corporates that will just be like, just tell me what I need to know. Cool. Here's my card details. Bang, done. 2 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that's it's tone, it's time. Like how quick are they responding to your initial greeting? What can you hear in the background? Do you think that they were walking into a meeting because they said they are, or are they just BSing you? You got to work those things out.
You got to read the room.
Read the room and do it incredibly well because there's no room to read. Yeah.
Yep. That's right. On the point of that, do you find that there is a big difference between selling B2B and B2C?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's more gatekeepers with B2B. You might want to sell to somebody, but you can't even get hold of them because you're speaking to some secretary and you can data scrape all you want. And it doesn't necessarily mean you're getting the accurate phone number because that number might have changed or call restrictions, or it might route to an EA before. So yeah, B2B, there's definitely more gatekeepers. So that's one challenge. And there's more volume that can be required. I have like a cold calling account that booked some time with me late last week that's desperate. And I said, oh yeah, look, for cold calling, we believe a minimum of 60 dials a day need to be done. And they're like, oh, we've only got 100 leads. So you guys will be done with us really quick. And I was like, then I had to sit there and listen and be like, oh crap, my pitch is completely off for this business. This works 95% of the time because it's the truth. Mm-hmm. But they're in the 5% where it doesn't. They do only have 100 leads and they only need 100 leads because their ticket is so high for what they're selling and it's such a niche product or service that they're delivering. So I think, B2B more commonly is a volume-based game because you've all the gatekeepers and you're trying to get around them. You might call the same gatekeeper from 2 different numbers from 2 different people in a day and you might get through the second time. Yeah. Because you may not have referenced who you're calling from in the opening lines to get through to the gatekeeper. So very, very different. While B2C, you're speaking to people and yeah, there is some ability to create emotional connection. And you know, with a gatekeeper, yeah, it might not be as important because yeah, they still need to like you, but they may not need to open up around any interest in the product or service because they are a receptionist. They are not the decision maker. So yeah, very different.
Yeah. Cam, I'm going to ask you one question that I ask every guest that comes to our show. What was your fuck it moment that propelled you personally and professionally?
Personally and professionally. I'm going to say when I was threatened with the legal action.
Tell us more about that.
The business grew really quickly in year 1 and I helped a global brand. They only had 10 locations at the time, open up a lot of locations in short succession, and they paid me very well to consult to them for 3 months before their broader network started using our services directly. And as people become more known, and they are an incredible business, more people are interested in our services. And long story short, I started helping more and more businesses, and naturally, they found out. They found out that, and I didn't hide it either, but they found out that I was helping another business. and they didn't like how that help was provided and believed it blurred some lines. Now, without going into specifics as to whether they were right or wrong, I respected this business so much that it really broke me. It really emotionally hurt me. It really, I was pretty fragile and depressed. And it would have been in year 1 or 2 of business. Year 2. It was in year 2, 1.5. And very quickly was told you can never work with our network. And we want you to hide all affiliation of your partnerships within our network. And I cared so much about this network, and I threw in $500,000 worth of, resources at the time into making sure that their business was supported and done really well. And so, yeah, for me, getting threatened from people that I really cared about, and really I flew nationally and internationally, completely free of charge to deliver workshops for and all sorts of stuff. That was something that knocked me for 6, not because of what I did for them, but because of how much I cared. And because I never intended to fracture that relationship. I just like helping businesses. And so when that happened, and perhaps we hadn't opened the doors as wide as we did in terms of working with the range of industries. We'd worked with multiple industries at that point, but not the 20 plus that we work with now. That really knocked me for 6. And my sales performance dropped. I struggled to make a call, and when I did make a call, my performance was bad. And that was the moment. So I can remember feeling sorry for myself through a November, December, January, and then it would have been a January, February. I asked somebody that I dearly respected, who had been incredibly successful in business, for a catch up, and I chose him not just because of the fact that he was a really great person, but because he had a lot of belief in me, and I knew he'd also give me some honest truths as to when I shared with him what had happened. And he just said, "Cam, you've done nothing wrong, actually. And you're an incredible person, and you've got an incredible product. Get back on your bloody horse and start riding it, because, you're doing a disservice to yourself and to others for feeling sorry for yourself." And it was a short and sharp catch up in his office, and it meant the world to me. And it really propelled me forward to say, you know what, let's do this. It doesn't matter the fact that you've lost, let's call it, I don't know, $80,000 of recurring revenue overnight kind of thing. And it was never about the financial aspect of things anyway. It was more about a internal thing. This made me sad that I've upset people that I never intended to upset. Once that happened, it was the best thing that ever happened, because I opened the doors wider, and I got back on the horse, and I was more motivated. And now, we haven't done any paid advertising for almost 12 months. We keep growing internally. Everyone keeps referring us. We're either, people's best secret because they don't refer us business, or they're referring us heaps of business. And if they're part of a network where they can all continue to benefit, then they're referring us a lot of business. And so that's obviously been completely replaced since, but it's also given me a new lease on life to enjoy my business so much more, because instead of caring overly about one business so much that you ride all the trials and tribulation, I can now care about so many more different industry types and businesses, that it puts things into perspective.
As you open up your door bigger for wider sort of businesses and industry, I'm sure that there is one question that your prospective clients would have in their mind as well. Conflict of interest. Now, what's your policy when you have to service their direct competitors?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think everyone should ask that question. Surprisingly, not enough do. If another business within the same radius said, would you be interested? There's been many times that we've had to sell a similar product or a service within that radius. If there's something formalized that says you can't or you won't, then of course we wouldn't. But more often than not, I think everyone realizes there's enough of the pie to go round. It's more about the sharing of IP. I think that's, that would be the bigger conflict, because at the end of the day, somebody who works for me today and is selling for this product or service could leave me today and sell for that other one, that competitor down the road anyway. Yeah. So it's out of your control within reason, and you can't do anything about it unless you have a really good, legal process in place. But there's just, so I think my policy is I'm always going to protect the partners that I have, particularly if that did occur. But it doesn't occur often. And if it did, we would definitely respect whoever we're partnered with, because we're not here for short-term relationships. We're here for partnerships that are going to last a long time. So we've got no contracts with our services in terms of we've got a service agreement, but nothing that says you need to be with us for like a term.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. People literally commit for 1 month and then they stay for however long they want. And that puts the onus on us to impress them, not just from results, but from relationship. So if we get results, but the relationship's not strong, we're going to lose them. If we don't get results, but the relationship's strong, we'll probably still retain them. So my business is not built very smart at all.
That's a crazy honor system.
Yeah. But you know what? And I could extend on this and you can be like, Cam, what on earth are you doing? But the short story is, my belief is we want to work with people who want to work with us. Yeah. Particularly if my staff are doing mundane work all day, every day. And we've got some fun things that keep them engaged, don't get me wrong, but the work they do is not glamorous. The businesses will stay with us if they want to stay with us, and they'll stay with us for one or two reasons that I referenced: results or relationship, and or both. So to extend on it, and this is where you're going to shake your head, not one business is on a direct debit. Every single business that pays me every single month on a retainer of small to very large, do a transfer into my bank account.
What's the rationale behind it?
Old school. The business was built through old school kind of trust, values, effort, care, and relationships. I've rarely ever been screwed. 4 years in business, I've been maybe screwed once, I don't know. And if it was once, I can't even remember it. It hasn't happened because I'm partnering with people that I want to partner with. And they're partnering with me because they want to partner with me /us. I could create a new financial position in my business today and say, your job is to put everyone on a direct debit. And naturally, we would probably retain every single one of those 40 businesses that we're actively partnered with right today for an extra 3 to 6 months because they're on a direct debit and they've already paid their roll off in month 1 because of that. Yeah. But it's just not who I am. I want people to want to work with us, and I want to work with those who I want to work with. And if they decide to not pay, then we'll stop doing the work.
Wow.
Yeah.
Would you ever change that?
I'm open to it, but it's not. Business is good. I enjoy what I do, and I don't have stresses within it at all. I've got such a great team right now, and that can change, of course. But the financial stresses associated with my business have not been there for a very long time, and that's So I'm happy. I'm content. But yeah, I will one day, if I want to, let's scale properly. Let's really go crazy here. We've scaled a lot already, but let's scale so much so that we can touch the stars. Well, yeah, of course I have to if I'm going to get, if I was to invest it, if I was going to get investors in, or if I was going to sell the business or whatever, you naturally would have to do those things. But I've bootstrapped it and I'm doing it the way that I want to do it because I want to do it that way. And at the moment it works. It may not work forever.
What's the biggest challenge now in your business?
Today's topic in the meeting, which I reference is, let's say that my sales skills are not better than yours, but I get significantly more sales than you and I do it with less time. Why? Yeah. So sometimes you just need connections. You just need to, when I say connections, people picking up the phone. And if 1 in 3 pick up the phone, how many dials do you really need to make? Yeah. And if your KPI is, whether it be 1 sale in a day or 20, depending on the portfolio that you look after, the challenge is, in a sentence, are you doing enough work? are you doing the volume of work that's required? If I can call 10 people right now to your person one, like, who's doing the work? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You might have needed to do a lot more research, build up your confidence, your pitch, your script, your mindset, your value proposition, remind yourself and refresh yourself on all the key things of the business. I don't need to, because I've got the confidence and belief that I can just get in there and do it. And if I don't have all the knowledge completely front of mind in that first 10 seconds, do I really need it? No, I needed them to pick up the phone. I can do the rest actively while I'm speaking to that person because I know how to multitask. Boom, move my screen here, move my screen there. What's the price again? Cool, I've got the price. I'm not speaking about the price in the first 10 seconds anyway. Yeah, but I do need to dial. Yeah, so the biggest challenge is how much work are you really doing? I can get your skill level to here, but if you're not doing the same volume of work as the next person, you may not win. So I think you have to be like I say, caffeinated or in the zone, or so like laser focused to do enough work in my business to win. So we win for others. We keep our costs low for a reason. Yeah. We want to seamlessly blend into businesses where businesses look at us and say, there is absolutely no way I could do this internally. Not at this price point and not with these results. So yeah, it comes back to doing the work, because the results don't just fall on your lap.
I've got a sales question for you. Mm-hmm. Now, the biggest pushback from clients is they wanted to know the price first at the very beginning. And I know that you don't talk about the price in the first 10 seconds. I've got a client yesterday who rejected my call twice. I sent him a follow-up email and he replied to the follow-up email instantly asking, how much can I borrow? Mm-hmm. Because we're in, it is in the end about pricing anyway. How would you overcome that?
What do you want the price to be?
Oh, I like that. I like that.
It could be anything. Like, I'm thinking of that on the spot. Like, and it's a great question, really, that you're asking. But it can be anything. So, for example, that reference that I've made is because you're trying to understand whether the person has done absolutely any research, because they might value you here. Yeah, but your industry is there in terms of price point. So if they're this far off already because they haven't done that research, then that's probably the best thing to overcome first. Yeah, if you can't close the gap on their industry knowledge of what people are actually ballparked at, well, then they're going to be like, whoa, and then they don't understand it and the barrier's up. So it's better to first understand whether they actually understand the value in terms of the price associated with it. So if I did that with somebody and they're like, oh, you're this much, I'd be like, yeah, out of curiosity, have you ever found a solution that delivers results that's priced cheaper than that, or provides more value than this? Because you know why you're priced what you're priced, but the customer doesn't. The other way, of course, depending on what you're selling, is like, well, the price is tailored to needs. Yeah. It can, and then if you need to really get specific, because I've tried a couple of approaches, you could try 7 others, but it could be like, it's from as low as this to as high as that. Like, what are they actually taking from the, like, it's such a silly range that you give them that they now want to know how they get to this range. Yeah. So there's lots of ways probably to talk about it, but it's such an interesting one nonetheless.
I like that. I really like that. I've never thought of that. That's why you're the sales king. Cam, one closing question. What was the best advice that you've ever got that you wanted to share with everyone?
Best advice
that you still carry with yourself until today?
Do what makes you happy. Yeah. Do what makes you happy. I have recently been thinking more and more about how quick life is progressing. I turn 37 next week. And I'm like, I'm turning 37 next week. I want to cry. Like, what's after 37? 38, 39, 40, 50, 60. Oh my gosh. Like, what's life looking like? I enjoy my life so much. Yeah. And I want to keep enjoying it. And at some stage of my life, I will not be able to enjoy it as much as I enjoy it right now. And it's all relative. But if I'm going to be in my 80s or 90s, I want to enjoy my life as much as I can in my 80s and 90s. And I think, the most important thing is to enjoy what you've got, whether it be smelling the roses, as we say, or otherwise. It's just like, enjoy what you've got, because things change quickly.
Yep.
Health, otherwise, like enjoy what you've got while you've got it and be grateful. Yeah, I think that would be it.
Be present, be grateful, but never complacent.
That's it.
Cam, thank you very much again. Very insightful. And I'll see you next time in At Us Affair.
Done. Thank you. Thanks for having me.